all the counties are in yellow. That means conditions are favorable. That's what we have right now. We have very high dew points. They're in the mid-70s. All of the energy is passing from southwest to northeast. Remember, typically, not all the time, but typically tornadoes will move in that fashion as well. They typically form around the southwest corner of a line of storms and gradually work their way to the northeast. Now, we have that watch for all of northeastern and central Pennsylvania, but the warning itself is only for the southern portions of Tioga County. And what does that mean? Tornado has either been spotted, a funnel cloud, or we've seen rotation on radar. And when we see that rotation on the radar, that can also trigger that tornado warning. So in all likelihood, where this spawned in southern Tioga County, that's exactly what happened. They look at a thunderstorm, and remember, when tornadoes form, they don't just form vertically like this, like you would put your finger down on a map. No, they form horizontally and then gradually work their way down. So when we see that meso-rotation inside of a storm, and that thing is turning and turning, we can pick it up on radar and we can say, hey, there's a possibility here that this could turn into a tornado, even though a funnel cloud hasn't been reported. Remember, years ago, you had to have somebody on the ground spot a funnel cloud for a tornado warning to be triggered. Now they can be triggered just with radar, as I was just explaining to you. So again, future clouds and radar, there it is. We're not out of the woods yet. We've got some storms that'll be moving through this evening. They're 7:30, could be over the Wyoming Valley here, and we'll be watching those. And then over eastern Pennsylvania and the Poconos as they finally push off away from our region up until about 11 o'clock or midnight or so. And we look at the risk today. Again, it's for tornadoes and those damaging winds. So even if you don't have a tornado warning for your area, but you have some strong thunderstorms coming in, we could be looking at wind gusts over 50 miles an hour. Dime-sized hail possible out of this, and also the potential for some flooding, as I mentioned, in areas with poor drainage. So that's our concern. Remember, yesterday when we were showing this, we were a level 2, but it was only in the northern tier. National Weather Service has now extended that down into southern Pennsylvania. So we're all under the gun until 9 o'clock tonight. That's what we expect. And then, of course, the other big issue, besides the tornado warning in southern Tioga County, are the heat index. It's just really, really hot out there. So these storms are going to be possible even heading into the evening hours. So we're going to want to keep a close eye on that. I'm just going to walk back over to the severe weather set. And I also have Tyler joining me here, and he's in the severe weather set. Any other tornado warnings firing up here, Tyler, besides the one that we see there?
So this tornado warning in Tioga County is the only warning that we currently have in effect. And if you remember, Kurt was talking about, we have two different types of tornado warnings that we have. Either someone in the National Weather Service or a spotter sees a funnel cloud or sees a tornado on the ground, or we can use special tools and radar to look in and kind of see the rotation in the storm. And so this tornado warning specifically was a radar indicated tornado warning, meaning we looked at the radar scan of that storm and can see the rotation in that storm, and that storm is imminently able to produce a tornado. And so that's why the warning was issued. That tornado warning, I believe, remains in effect until 4:30. For Tioga County, but that is the only tornado warning that remains in effect. Lots of lightning in that storm as well, Kurt.
I'll tell you, I'm just moving around here on the radar to show you how fast this thing is moving pretty quickly to the northeast. And I just want to give you a layout for who's in the path of this. And we'll just move it up here. And there we go. So yeah, Wellsboro still in the path. We got Mansfield, Robert Maxon Track, Williamson School. These ring a bell to you. These are all in the path of what could be a tornado as picked up on radar. And again, we're just waiting on a confirmation for if there was one actually spotted on the ground. And this is, Tyler, in reference, we were talking about this earlier, what you were talking to, the difference between a watch and a warning.
Yes, and with a watch, all you need to do really is be prepared. You know, you're being prepared right now by watching us here talking about the conditions. You make sure you have a way to get weather warnings, but once a warning is issued, that's when we really need you to start taking those tornado precautions. Now, what does that mean exactly? It means if you're anywhere in that red tornado warning polygon, I want you to get to the lowest level of whatever building you're in. It might be your home, it might be your work, in an interior your room and away from windows. The goal here is to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible to protect yourself. If you have a basement, generally that's the best place to be. Otherwise, you want to be on the lowest level if possible until this potentially tornadic storm passes through. So that is what we recommend, or what we really need you to do if you're in that tornado warning. In effect, until 4:15. Excuse me, I said 4:30 earlier. That's the severe thunderstorm warning.
Correct.
Tornado warning until 4:15.
And that's what I want to mention on too. Notice a lot of times we get severe thunderstorm warnings before we get a tornado warning. And most of the time, and we talked about this the other day when we were talking about the straight line winds that hit in Berwick. You remember that?
Yep.
Yes. So those were straight line winds that hit in Berwick. 90% of the damage done from storms are from straight line winds, not from tornadoes.
Yes.
And straight line winds can do a lot of damage. As we saw, that building completely destroyed.
Yes, and I've seen, we saw previously with some of the storms that moved through earlier this summer, roofs blown off of buildings and just by straight line wind gusts. And so even if you receive a severe thunderstorm warning this afternoon and into this evening as well, please take it seriously and do make sure you're indoors and even away from windows until that storm passes through.
And I want to go back to the weather computer, if we could please, control room, and that's the gold areas that I was highlighting here. That's what I wanted to mention. So you can see where we have the tornado warning there in southern Tioga. But I am also looking at this storm system that's moving from Clinton County into Lycoming County. That's another area that I want to watch very closely as well. We'll go ahead and look at the radar again, and I'm going to zoom in. When we're not in the backyard and we're in this severe weather set, we have much more freedom and liberty to use our computer rather than just following a rundown that we've already created. So that's exactly what it is we're doing. So see that area that's between Renova and Lock Haven? That area is going to be moving, that storm is going to be moving northeast. So let's just put this up here.
And Kurt, I want to say, as you put a tracker on that storm is beginning to show some preliminary signs of rotation. So just be aware, if you're in the areas that are on your screen right now, that within the next 15, 20 minutes, we could, I'm not saying we will, but we could have a tornado warning on our hands here if the storm continues to intensify in the same way.
Yeah, and this is another example of what we were talking about earlier. So you've got what was a severe thunderstorm warning, and that got spawned into a tornado warning. That's the one just to the north there in Tioga. And now we have this other one that's moving into western Lycoming County. And that's why I wanted to highlight that, because there's a good chance that we could be looking at some damage from this storm as well. Let me just go ahead and zoom in on this. And again, if you're just joining us, the Newswatch 16 at 4, we came on just a few minutes early because we had a tornado warning triggered. See that storm right by Wellsboro? That spawned that tornado warning. And notice the flow coming up from this, the inflow. When the arrows are green, it's lighter. When they're yellow, it's stronger. When they're red, like what you're seeing now, that's potential for some strong updraft. And that's what we're seeing in that storm, which could also lead to some hail in those areas. And then back here, this is the other storm that we're watching very closely. This one intriguing me. That's why I keep going back to it. I'm wondering, well, what's going to happen with this storm? And if you're wondering what's in the path, again, I'm just going to, this time I'm going to do a cone and show you right here. No, doesn't like that one. So let me just erase that one, and I'll go here. And what's in the path of this storm? What towns? Here we go, right there. Little Pine State Park, not heavy as far as population, but there could be some people camping out there or doing things out there. Beech Grove School, Upper Pine, Bottom State Park, could be people out there. So if you know people that are out at the parks right now enjoying outdoor festivities or whatever, you may want to give them a call and say, hey, there's a tornado warning just north of us, but there's another nasty storm that's going to be barreling down on you in the near future. And that storm's moving through pretty quickly as well. Biggest concerns with these storms, obviously damaging winds. We've seen that with the storms that we had just a few weeks ago, but also tornadoes. And these are going to stick around, Tyler. till probably 8, 9, 10 o'clock this evening, especially over eastern Pennsylvania. They'll be wrapped up in central PA, but over eastern Pennsylvania, it could be a hot time in the Old Town this evening.
Right, and we'll be keeping you informed all evening long as these storms continue to move through. But the threat with these storms, as Kurt was saying, gusty winds, tornadoes possible, also flooding. Some of these storms have rainfall rates that could be an inch per hour or more, and that can cause localized flooding, especially along rivers, creeks, streams, also areas that have poor drainage. So that's something to keep in mind as well with any of the storms today, regardless of whether you see a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. Please, please do not attempt to drive through flooded roadways or go into any areas that are flooded, because you never know what those areas could be bringing. And so that's just one other way that I really want you to stay safe as we head into later on this evening. Kurt.
Yeah, we got a couple here that I'm just highlighting, and that's the tornado warning that you see right there. That's until 4:15. Then, of course, when that is allowed to expire, we'll go to Lisa, who is waiting on the desk for the news. But we also have this other one, as Tyler and I have been talking about, near just northwest of Williamsport. That's a severe thunderstorm warning until 5 o'clock. We want to keep a close eye on both of these. The one up in Tioga County is going to be moving out of our viewing area, Tyler, but the one just entering Lycoming County, that could go right up into places like Bradford County. So one nice thing is I'm looking at the returns on this. It's moving pretty quickly, but it doesn't seem, I mean, it's got a little intensification. That's what bothers me. As I mentioned before, that southwest corner of a storm, and where I'm talking about is right in here. So, you know, you see the development, the fact that it's moving to the northeast like this, I mean, that just, the whole scenario set up on that bothers me a little bit.
Yeah,
Tyler.
and the rotation is bothering me a little bit as well. When we look at the velocity mode on the radar and we're looking at the rotation, it's looking to be intensifying just a little bit. So that's something that I'm sure the meteorologists at the National Weather Service are watching extremely closely right now, and that's something that Kurt and I are looking at very closely right now as well.
I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. I don't normally like to show this because most people, we look for it because we're looking for how a storm's reacting with inflow, outflow, and when we zoom in, let me just zoom in on this area that you're talking about here.
Yeah.
And again, we're watching it. It's actually looking weaker, which is...
The tornado-warned storm is looking weaker, and that's good news. But the storm off to the south, that looks like the rotation is looking to continue. Yeah. And so that's something we're keeping a close eye on.
Talking about this area right here we're talking about. So again, to people at home, it looks grainy, it looks strange. But we're just telling you that when we look at this, we are looking for signatures that would cause for circulation of a storm. And we talk about the inflow, the outflow with it, and we use velocity to do that. But again, I digress because I'm going to back out of that just because it doesn't really show the viewer at home too much. This shows the viewer at home a lot more where exactly those storms are right here. And we zoom in, and that's the area we're talking about right now. So we also have that severe thunderstorm warning. We were just looking at that one right here. That's until 5 o'clock. So all of the area under a tornado watch, tornado warning, we've been talking about that as well. There's a clear distinction between the two. Tornado watch means conditions are favorable. That's what we have across northeastern and central Pennsylvania. And then that tornado warning that was issued by the National Weather Service, because as we discussed, Tyler, they were picking up rotation on Doppler.
Yes, and that is the only reason why we have a tornado warning here. Definitely still it was a stronger rotation signature earlier. Now it's beginning to weaken a little bit, and at 4:15 the National Weather Service can choose to either extend that warning or cancel that warning and continue this as a severe thunderstorm warning if they believe the storm still has those severe characteristics. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I also have been checking storm reports. We have not received any official spotter reports so far, so that's something we'll continue to monitor those as they come in and let you know if we receive any damage reports.
I'm sure we will, and you're right, it just hasn't updated yet. I checked it over here as well. All right, now I want to get time specific with more storms, okay?
Yes.
I know we're on because of that tornado warning in southern Tioga County, but for you folks in the Wyoming Valley, the Scranton area, you're going to be looking at potential for some storms. You can see the timeline right here. The red line, between 7 and say 10 o'clock, we're going to see a spike in these storms as they come through. So that's for the Scranton area. Now I want to look for you folks in the Williamsport area. And look at this, from noon today, this is down dramatically because the storms are now moving east. So once we make it through between now and say 6 o'clock, the threat for storms, Tyler, comes way down heading into the evening hours for Williamsport.
Yes, and much of central Pennsylvania, once these storms roll through, maybe after dinner time or so, you should remain relatively dry and away from severe weather. Once these storms move through central Pennsylvania, our focus really shifts to where they're moving to, which is eastern Pennsylvania and northeastern Pennsylvania specifically, as these storms continue to move in a general northeasterly direction, which is very commonly what we see with these storms this time of year.
The other thing I want to mention real quickly, the blue line that you're seeing there now, that's the Poconos. So that's even east of the Wyoming Valley. That's why that peak is a little bit later. So that's going to be sometime between, say, 8:30, 9 o'clock till about 11 o'clock. That's when you're going to see some more storms moving through. But I want to go back to your point for a minute, Tyler, and that is this. When we talk about the storm, and I mentioned this at noon today, you have this big area of low pressure, what's left of Beryl, okay? And so what's happening right now is we're seeing that line forming, but we're also seeing a flow of warm, moist air that's coming up from the south from that counterclockwise rotation. Now, as I mentioned at noon today, as you know, in the wintertime, for those of us that like warmer temperatures, Tyler, and Tyler likes cold, that's okay. But for Lisa and I, normal people that like warmer temperatures, that southwest flow is a great bonus in the wintertime because it gives us that warmer surge of air, typically right before an Arctic front or something arrives. But it can be to our detriment this time of the year because
absolutely,
look at our dew points. They're in the mid 70s.
And that warm, moist air is just fuel for thunderstorms. They form and thrive off of this warm, humid air. Now, an update to the tornado warning that we've been following, in effect only for 3 more minutes, Kurt.
Yep.
It's 4:12 right now, in effect until 4:15. The National Weather Service has extended this as a severe thunderstorm warning. This severe thunderstorm warning is for southeastern Tioga County, so we're still talking about Tioga County.
Yep.
And it remains in effect until 4:30 for southeastern Tioga County. Their hazards that they're thinking in this, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, also nickel-size hail possible with this thunderstorm as well. But they think that the immediate tornado threat with this storm's ability to produce a tornado has now subsided.
Okay, so let's just go back to this map. So that tornado warning that we had there in Tioga County is going to expire here any minute. We are going to give the programming back to news now. As you know, we come on whenever there's a tornado warning. So, but we're not out of the woods yet. If you look just to the south of that, just northwest of Williamsport, that's that other storm that you were talking about, Tyler, and that's one that we have to keep a close eye on. So
yes,
I want to thank you at home for tuning in to WNEP, and I say this from time to time, but it's so true. So many channels to choose from, and you're here with us. You're like family. We appreciate you. We are in the severe weather set. Our friend Lisa has been at the anchor desk waiting to take over for news. So now that that tornado warning threat is over, Tyler and I, Lisa, will send it back to you.
All right, Kurt, thank you so much for that, and of course for keeping us informed about the storms and the warnings in the area. We are going to take a quick break, and we will come back with Newswatch 16.
This has been a Storm Tracker 16 special report.
Someone's going to become a tornado?